Hi, this is Max Gravitt. This is the first in a series of videos that I plan to do to provide some technical tips on how to use the Hypha DAO and its tools. So as you see on the screen, this is something that all of the users are familiar with. This is the dashboard for the web application. Of course, you can use this to create new proposals for a new role, proposals for a new contribution. I can vote on existing role proposals, vote on existing contribution proposals. I can apply for a role, so these are roles that are already approved that I can apply for. I can, I can enroll new members. I'm actually an enroller. I have a special permission that allows me to enroll new members, so that's why I have this screen. Most folks probably wouldn't have that. I can view, just like I could view the proposals from up here, I can also view the proposals here, roles, assignments, and contributions. And here I can find, existing agreements that we have. So these are all of the assigned individuals that are assigned in specific roles. So of course you can use this wonderful user interface to access all this information and vote, create new objects, create new proposals, all sorts of things. And we're continuously adding all sorts of great functionality to this user interface. All of the information that is underlying the DAO is also, of course, stored on chain. And you can access all of the data using Block Explorer as well. So here I'm at the daoctl account, which has a smart contract. And all of the data that is underlying the Hypha DAO web application is stored within here. So you can actually, so if you saw under new members, this individual here has applied to become a member, and that data also exists on the blockchain right here. So this is under the applicants table. So I can also see the members table, and this lists all of the members of the DAO. And there's various other things that I could look at here as well. On this page, I can see all of the history. So this shows all of the places where we are proposing different objects, voting on proposals, payouts, all sorts of actions that represent the history of this particular contract. What I want to show you today is show you this command line application that I've been working on to access the same information. And as a smart contract developer, I often need to access a lot of the underlying data within the smart contract, and I need to access it in flexible ways. And so often the user interface meant for users, the one here, and the one here, the one on the Block Explorer, it doesn't present the information to me in a way that I necessarily need in order to troubleshoot or debug or very quickly query and access various information that is underlying the DAO on chain. And so that's why I've created this command line application, DAO control, that I use to access some of the underlying information. And I thought that it might be useful for some of the other members, particularly more of the technically inclined members, but really anyone who is brave enough to give it a shot could download a release of this, and if they're interested, they could access some of the same information. So I'll spend the next few minutes giving you a quick demonstration of the tool. All right, so once you download the software, you'll be able to unzip it and run it on your system. And so let's just run it here. You'll have the executable. Okay, so when I run daoctl, it's the control application for Hypha DAO, query and actions. Today I'm just going to go over how to access information, not how to submit your votes or create new proposals, although that's certainly possible in the tool as well. So here's a little bit about the usage. Here are the available commands. Backup. This just creates, it takes all the data from the blockchain and creates a localized backup of all the available data, which is kind of nice, particularly for me as I'm developing. You can use it to close a proposal. You can create a new object or a new proposal based on a JSON file. You can get objects. The help command, of course, you can query some of the history, the historical actions that have taken place within the DAO. Test the software, you don't need to worry about that one. And then there's also a vault, which is essentially a way to safely store your private key so that you can use this tool to actually submit transactions if you so desire. So let's start with just getting a list of the roles. So here's a table that shows all of the current active roles. So there are 41 roles. They each have a title, an owner. This isn't necessarily the person serving in that role, but it's the person that created the proposal that was voted on that led to the role. There are some parameters here, the minimum commitment time. So of this role here, then requires at least a 50% commitment. So part-time 50%, but some of them are 100 and some of them are as low as 10%. There's also a minimum deferred percentage. This is the minimum amount of compensation that must be deferred until after go live. So it goes into a vesting contract where it sits and waits until the DAO votes for the go live event. There's also FTE capacity. So most of these are, one, meaning there's one full-time person budgeted for, but several of them are more, or less. So you may have, this one has 3, this one all the way down to 20%. So that's another variable. We have the annual USD equivalent for the role, the extended, which is just the capacity times the USD. Then we have the start date, end date, and the ballot, and there's some other identifying information here. So these are all the active roles, but let's say that I wanted to look at both the roles and the current proposals. So here I can add a parameter, -- include proposals. And so here it gives me, again, this is the list we already looked at. And then here's a set of role proposals. So there are 5 open proposals that could be reviewed. We could also look at failed proposals. So here's the list of failed role proposals that we've had. We can also include the archive. So the archive includes everything. So this is, the full archive. So everything gets copied to various places, and it is accessible through this UI. So let's switch from roles to assignments. Actually, let's take a look at a particular role. Passport app developer here, role 18. So here I'm just going to do DAO control get role 18. All right, so here I have a lot more of the detail of the role, including the job description. So the title, a URL, the Passport application uses Ember, the salary, the time commitment, deferred pay, again, start and end period. So a lot of the same information. Now, it also here has, there's a ballot ID. That was the ballot ID for the Telos Decide proposal that was used to support this role. So we can actually take a look at that as well. So let's do get DAO control get ballot 45. Okay. So here's the ballot object. The status is closed. The ballot was open from March 25th to April 1st. Here's the description, of course. And here's the voting history for this proposal as well. So there were 5 accounts that voted for this role. Here's the amount of their voting power, of their H-voice token that controls their voting power. And then here are just some other metrics. The total H-voice supply of 2.6 million. So the quorum of 20% that is needed to pass a proposal is here, 525,000, and this one received 683,000 votes. So the quorum was met. Over 80% of the votes were affirmative, so the vote is passing and voting is closed. So this just gives you all of the information about that particular ballot, that particular role. In the future, in the next video, I'll show how you can use this tool to vote for proposals if you wish. So let's move on to assignments. And similar to roles, here's a list of all of the currently active assignments. And so you can, there's a little bit more information because when a role is turned into an assignment, that's when we calculate all of the individual token values for that role, the salary values. So here we have HUSD, Hypha, H-voice, escrow seeds, and liquid seeds. So in case you're not familiar, I'll just very quickly go through these. So HUSD is a treasury token. It's, for lack of a better word, could be considered a peg to USD, and it is used to pay some assignments. Hypha is the native Hypha reward token. H-voice is the voting power voice. It's a non-transferable token that represents how much power an account has when they move to vote on a proposal. And then there's the seeds token, of course, and there's 2 flavors of that. One is escrow seeds, which gets locked up until the DAO votes to go live. And the go live event is when all of the escrowed seeds become claimable. And then liquid seeds are seeds that are circulating in the ecosystem. So these are the existing roles. So you could look at the HUSD amount and look down here once it's all added up, and you can see that the current burn rate of this DAO is $7,800 per week. That's per week. So let's see, it's similar to roles. You can also include proposals. We have some some outstanding proposals here. We can let's look at one of these ballots. I'll just pick this one, F2. 2. And you can see, this one's open. It just opened yesterday. It ends in, the voting period is a week. And it has a couple of votes. This one actually looks like it was probably a mistake because the description here is just the default description that is pre-populated, so nothing was actually entered. So this one will likely, it won't pass, and then it will just be removed from here automatically and flow to the failed proposals section. Okay, so that's assignment. With assignments, you can also do, the archive and failed proposals. We can also look at payouts, which map to contributions. This is the same thing as contributions, not salary payouts. So these are all just one-time contributions that were paid. And now the founding team did a number of these in earlier to catch them up from work that took place dating back to 2018. But there are, here you can do the same thing. Include proposals. And you can see there's some active proposals. Here I will actually, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to close the proposal now. I'm going to wait until the next video for that. So let me go ahead and bounce over to query. All right, so we can use the query command. Let's just run the default here. So what the default does is it queries the history of the DAO contract. So that is dao.hypha. And it queries all the different commands. So this is very similar to what you saw here in terms of the history. It will look very similar to what we're seeing here. The action name, that's paying an assignment. This is someone applying for membership, closing a proposal, creating a new proposal, and on and on. And you can also use the query to look into the details of a specific object. So 9 hours ago, this proposal was created. So let's grab this transaction ID. And we'll say query transaction. We'll put in the ID. This one takes a little bit longer to go after the specific transaction. And so here you go. This is the details of that action, that transaction. It included these 4 actions. It created a new ballot with the Telos Decide, previously known as Trail service. It edited details and it opened the votings. So I still can't see, this data section here, it's been snipped off just because it can be really big. I just wanted to provide a flavor for it. But let's go ahead and we can look at all the detail by adding a parameter --JSON, which will, it takes a second also, but it will print out all the detailed JSON that underlines the transaction. So here we can see the details of the proposal by Jacqueline. It looks like this is an assignment proposal, and he's written a description here, and then of course it has all of the parameters that are needed, and then this is all of the details behind how the transaction was interfacing with Telos Decide. So there's some other things we can do here. So let's query, let's right, so these are the last 10 actions that Hypha New York took on the DAO.Hypha contract. So you can see, a lot of closing of proposals. I've noticed that often the creator of the proposal doesn't go back in to close their proposal, and so I often go in and end up, closing a lot of the proposals where the voting period has completed, but the proposal object itself hasn't been closed, and so that's the last step that needs to take place on all of the proposals. But anyway, that's why you see a lot of that one. Some other things that I can do. I can say, let's take a look at Hypha New York actions. Instead of with DAO.Hypha contract, let's change that to the bank. Okay, so here you can see that Hypha New York has taken 2 actions with the bank to redeem, and this was a 1 week and 2 weeks ago. It was related to some testing that was being done. So let's see, I can also Hypha New York and say the contract of, I can just blank it out, and this will actually give me a list of all the actions, all the contracts and all the actions of those contracts that Hypha New York has completed. Just like some of these probably are not even related to, they're all related to Hypha. Let's see, so what else can we do here? We can change the limit. So the default is 10, but I can change that to 25 and see all the detail here. One thing I like to look at is the history of creation of proposals. So here I will leave account blank, and I'll search for the contract of DAO.Hypha and an action of create, because that's the action that gets invoked when a new proposal is being created. And these are the last 10. I can go to the last 35, and this gives you an idea. A lot of proposals were created in this chunk of time right here. Another tip, something that comes up a lot, is I'll get a question from one of the members, such as, the numbers don't look right relative to what I was expecting, and in order for me to investigate or troubleshoot that, we need to go look at all of the detail. And so one way to start is, and this is what I usually ask the member, is, tell me the history of the proposals that you created, and what you expected to see as the outcome of those proposals and what you actually did see as the outcome. And this can help users dig into that. So let's see. We can say contract DAO.Hypha create. So I want to see a list of all the proposals that user, let's see, a storyteller create, all of their create actions. Okay, so here, let me go back. I think that I probably don't have that many. Yeah, here we go. So here's a list of all the proposals. I mean, it's not too many, a dozen or so proposals that this user submitted. But here we can actually then go in and pull up all of the detail behind these transactions. This one, they're all going to show these same 4 actions because those are the 4 that get called. But then this does bring up the ballot name, which is kind of nice. And here I can say get ballot. What is it? 2J. It doesn't. The ballot name includes this Hypha 1, 5 periods, and then the code. So you can just skip over that and just put the last 2 digits. All right. Here's the information about that proposal. And this one actually didn't pass. And here you can, let's take a look at one of the more recent ones. Again, 45 days ago. And I can say C3. And this gives me the detail of that ballot. Just one more example, and then I'll just wrap this video up, is to show a different contract. I did show one of the other contracts, but let's say that I want to query all of the HUSD issuance, or let's just say transfers, over the last week. So here I can do query. The contract is HUSD.Hypha, and the action is, what did I say, transfer. Here we go. So you can see, all of the history of those transactions. So you can, if you're familiar with Telos, you can actually use this query tool on any contract and any action and any account. And in the future, I plan to add some additional functionality around that. Also, in the next video, I'll show how you can use DAO control to vote, or even create new proposals, or claim your salary, or perform any of the other actions that you do with the DAO. Until then, have a great